So now we will be going ahead with the first industry speaker of today. No, he's none other than our Mr. Senthil Nayagam, who is the Senior Vice President at Hexaware Technologies, who is handling the global revenue assurance, and also he is the Chief Learning Officer of this Hexaware Technologies. In fact, he leads the recruitment, resource management within Hexaware, and learning and development as Chief Learning Officer, and also he supports the sales excellence because Senthil has been with Hexaware for 15 years. And no, in fact, he's been a global head of manufacturing and consumer vertical. With 30 years of experience in the entire IT industry, he's a chartered accountant by qualification. So, no, we are going to listen to a multi-dimensional man on what the future of learning is going to be. So, over to Mr. Senthil.
Thank you, Anbu. Good morning, everyone. That was a great start, Dr. Siddhyappa, and you touched upon very interesting and good things. For me, coming from the industry, I did note your mention of how the role of the educators continues to get even more important. And you made a great point about learning, right? That is what we are going to teach the students. Very well said. That has been a big ask and continues to remain our focus too when we bring in students from the campuses into the college and continue to nurture them and see them grow as our pillars. So thank you for a very good note. Now, in fact, what you said is the logical thing that I wanted to start with, which is technology keeps changing ever so frequently. And it's while, me coming from the IT industry probably will have a tendency to look at IT more, but it's never only the industry, never only IT, everywhere. For example, the automobile industry, the internal combustion engine didn't change for a long time, but so much of electronics came into cars. And today, a Sony makes a car. Sure, not on scale, but the fact is that technology has completely changed, right? And it will continue to change ever so frequently. In fact, as an industry, a good chunk of work that we do today did not even exist 3-4 years ago. Let's say cloud. Sure, it existed, but was it on this scale, with this impact, with this size? The answer is no. Whether it is AI, ML, we go to the automobiles, connected cars, electric vehicles, that is the change that we continue to see. So really, the people who come in all the time, out of the colleges, then into the industries, lateral, whatever, it doesn't matter. It goes back to what Dr. Siddhyappa said, which is, it is all about continuous learning. There is no end to the learning. You have to continue doing it at all times. That really is the reality of what the industry asks, the business requires, and our customers also expect. Now, the interesting part is, while many of these things are hot, not enough skills in the market, we continue to invest on training, people do self-learning, so many different forums. The fact is, probably about 40% of what we will end up doing, let's say in 2030, we don't even know what they are. Forget about being ready for it. We don't even know at least 40% of skills that we will end up consuming in 2030, we have no clue what they are going to be. They will come up in the horizon. They will emerge, they will mature, and they will get consumed in a much larger scale in times to come. So that is really the fast changing dynamic landscape that we are living in today. And at the same time, I would say somewhat of a short-lived, technology scape. Nothing lasts forever. Which brings us to a very important stuff about, as we heard before, what you have learned in college, what you learn in jobs, and what you may have learned on the job is not forever. We came from a thinking for a long time that learning is for a lifetime. We don't quite see that anymore. It never was. It certainly is. The change is faster than ever. It is going to be continuous throughout one's life. So learning is not for life. Learning is everyday life. The other important, observation we have from the campus to the industry is, while there has always been the stress and the focus on technical skills, whether it is skill A, skill B, skill C, it doesn't matter. In today's world, that alone doesn't make a person successful. In addition to all those capabilities, it is very important to have the soft skills and the behavioral skills also embedded into people. Now, these are not things that come by just an overnight classroom session. Technology you can teach in 5 days, but a behavioral happens over a period of time. Communication happens over a period of time. Soft skills emerge and evolve over a period of time. Now, the good news we see is, I've been closely working with uh, some of the colleges, trying to do what doctor said about engaging with the colleges, sharing our feedback, doing our bit what we can, and trying to guide both the faculty as well as the students in terms of what they should be doing. The good news is that we found quite a few of them have recognized those missing pieces, have already woven them into their academics. Forget whether it's part of the UGC curriculum or outside, it doesn't matter. They are covering it, and the students also have embraced it reasonably well, which means a couple of years down the road we should already be seeing much better students coming out of the campuses for the industry. So that's important. Good start. We have a long way to go, not just at a campus level, at an industry level. As a country, there's a long way to go, but I'm sure with these baby steps and continuous efforts that all of us will put in, we will see a big improvement and change over a period of time. The other important thing that I also want to talk about from an industry perspective, and Rajan probably as a consumer of those talent, would echo it as well, is we have gone away from the days of chasing just skills. Those days are gone. That's not how jobs are defined anymore. That's not what business requires. That is not how one is going to succeed. One has to be capable for a role. So instead of a skill based thinking, we have moved on to thinking about what is needed, what are the roles that we need to deliver a business for a customer. What is it that each of these roles should possess, whether it is technical skills, behavioral skills, soft skills, and then combine all of them to make a person ready for that role. So it's a capability and not just a skill that really is going to make a big difference for individual successes. And that is something I would urge the educators to look at and bring in those not just your technical stuff, but also the ability for students to work, let's say, unsupervised. The current COVID is a great example. The entire industry is working without being in the office, literally unsupervised. It's just self-governance, focus on what you should be doing, what you should be delivering. I can share a real life. After this started, all of us have BCPs. After all of this started, we did a survey using a third party with our customers to get a view of how do customers see. The good news is about 95% said there is no difference between the past and present in terms of productivity, response, etc. If anything, it's gotten better. Now that's a great statement coming in from the customers, because that shows that our people as a nation have matured to work unsupervised. Now that's something that ideally can start from the colleges. The second important stuff is, as a nation, we've been very hierarchical, right? We have survived on titles, seniority, number of years, a rank and file. That's fast unraveled in the IT industry. In today's world of agile, etc., there's no manager. There's at best a scrum master. The team is self-governed. They promise what they will do as a team. They deliver it. They're going to succeed or fail as a team. So it is never just the multiple composite technical skills, but a lot of other behavioral skills that also come together to make someone successful. And that is something I would urge you all to continue looking at, to promote, encourage your students to do, from being individualist, skill-based players into very rigorous, leveraging each other kind of a team players. That's going to make a big difference for the industry and for the future. Now, another important change that has happened is, and this is probably a mental shift that students would have when they come in from campuses into the industry, is it is not about passing an exam. It's not about how many certificates you managed to crack. That's almost a hygiene factor. It's about one's ability to apply knowledge, right? It doesn't matter, I would say it doesn't matter that somebody is certified, managed to get 60 or 70 is almost a hygiene factor. It doesn't mean anything unless somebody is able to demonstrate a continuous ability to apply knowledge for real world problems and solve what the business requires for them. So that's very, very, very important. And again, that requires not just capability, not just technical capabilities, but also the in-depth urge to look beyond, think lateral, think out of the box, find innovative solutions. Everything is not black and white. Everything is not about what we have learned or not learned, but an ability to apply and solve a problem, which actually takes us to the next logical stuff, which is the most important ability is an ability to learn. If all of us had a ready-made, standard operating procedure, textbook to fall back upon, the textbook has been replaced with internet today with billions of, gigabytes of data, then we don't need human element. Unfortunately, that is not the reality. It is important for people to be able to apply the knowledge and go beyond, think, and be able to solve problems. That's a very important shift that is important in the individuals and which we will have to incorporate from day one for the future generations. I also want to add here, when you look at it from a industry perspective, the assessment itself has changed. As Hexaware City or corporate university, I'm sure that's what other companies do too. It is not about just the certifications. Our whole assessment emphasis has changed to, does someone have the ability to do, not just not it doesn't just measure what someone knows. It really focuses on measuring ability to be able to deliver the goods. So that's a shift, and that's probably a shift that in the entire system we need to look at from a long-term purview. The other thing is what we are going through today. Remote learning is going to become natural. Even within your campus, in the companies, in your university, at least you have an advantage. Your students have full time. They're expected to sit through the classrooms or in the labs, learn. That's not the luxury the industry has. Everybody has to build, be on client projects, manage a zillion things, and in addition, learn to stay current. And it is going to be impossible to get them all into a classroom. So even within the industry, in the campus today, it is remote learning. People may join from the desks. There are no more of those day-long classes because people neither have the time nor the attention span. So it actually becomes more of decentralized, virtual, sometimes instructor-led. To the earlier question or comment, online self-learning requires a lot of discipline, focus, and it still cannot be 100% substitute for an intervention by a teacher. It is not that in a 2 hours a teacher may complete everything, but a teacher is able to guide, coach, and get that interest going. And importantly, what we have seen is break the phobia that sometimes people have about, hey, this sounds too much, I won't be able to do, right? So while remote learning will become more and more important, especially with anywhere employees, but it is not going to replace 100% the instructor-led classroom. The form and function changes. We have moved on to virtual instructor-led classrooms as we are doing now in the COVID situation, but the teacher's role is more important than ever. Another thing that I want to touch upon, possibly coming in from attention span, time, several other stuff, and just the human nature. It is not possible for us today to be delivering learning in a full course. Those days are gone. Full courseware became modules. Modules have now become more bite-sized, of maybe a couple of hours, even lower than that. And that's a way that learning really has changed. The other important change that is happening and will continue to happen in the industry is learning becomes sort of just in time. No matter what we tell, it is important as an organization for us to be able to provide those quick preview kind of a courses before somebody starts off in a particular project, technology, customer area, etc. Because today's generation, the millennials we're working with, are looking at learning along with the flow of work and just in time when needed. They're not going to spend any time about something that is futuristically maybe needed 6 months later, 1 year later. I don't think they're still ready yet. Hopefully, those things will come in too. But right now, the approach that is working best with them is bite sized, just in time, sort of embedded and goes along with their workflow. That seems to be working fine. And that we think will continue to propel the change in the future as well. The other change that we think will also happen is a lot of learning today is focused on the hard skills, call it technology, behavioral, soft skill, but gradually with this distributed workforce, people working out of homes, gig economy, this generation doesn't want to necessarily work for employment. In India today, an employer and an employment is still a social thing. There's a brand, but that's changing. Today's generation is happy on its own, work on their terms, and we'll see more and more of that happening in the days to come. For all of them, it is, beyond the technical skills. We will see learning, technology, digital, all that being leveraged more for a number of other areas that we don't use them today for. Example, standard operating procedures, policies, product features, maintenance, what do you do, how do you do, etc. I think the digital technologies will come in into play a lot more and expand to cover those areas as well. Another important thing, which is important, which we still don't think is so much so good and effective today, is hands-on learning. While you can have your classroom, we can have the e-learning, self-learning, a million stuff, there is no substitute for dirtying the hands and working things, learning things hands-on. The good news is colleges have fantastic infrastructure. I've visited, seen a number of colleges with really good cutting-edge infrastructure. Some with OEM support, some with industry support. That is very good. Companies are investing in facilities to do all that. The good news we see is it's still not there yet. Okay, but it'll get there. Is with cloud, there are providers who have started providing virtual labs for different scenarios. It is not possible for a company to maintain, if I were to maintain 5,000 different instances for, let's pretend, 5,000 concurrent employees, it's not possible, right? My focus is learning, not maintaining the technology environment. That's not your shouldn't be your focus either. The good news is there are providers emerging who are able to provide all that, which you can just consume and scale up the ability to provide hands-on learning for the students a lot more. And that is a important change that should happen, will continue to happen in the days to come. And lastly, very, very important is it is important for everyone to have that self-motivation to learn. It cannot come from a push, that you have been doing in the colleges. We also do the carrot and stick in very many ways, rewards, linking to PMS, etc., etc. But that is still a push. The real urge to learn has to come in from within, from our employees, from the students, and companies are putting in ways and means to move all this from a pull to a push so that it becomes naturalized. People just take it to a naturally and keep it as an ongoing process for years to come. Now, all of this, is also being enabled somewhat by technology. Now, we have seen the evolution of learning systems, right? Which bring together fantastic content from, great providers. But very honestly, if you take a look at it, they're very enterprise centric. They are not addressing today's millennials. The look and feel is 15 years. They're very, it's exactly like people are like us, 45-year-olds, 50-year-olds, thinking about how education should be run, should be administered. Current generation is not interested in learning it that way. They have their own style. and a lot of them want it, differently. The new, not so new actually, but I would still say relatively youngish, but they will grow, is what is called as LXP, learning experience portals. Incredible, pull, and I would urge, educators to take a look at some of them. They pull in, I mean, today's student doesn't just learn from your college curriculum, from Udemy's of the world and Coursera's. Most of the learning today happens actually on YouTube and several other sources that are available free, without even a subscription. These products pull in data. I mean, the power really comes from the aggregation of so many users. So these systems are smart, learn adjacent skills. And if you watched, if you are looking at 3 and 4 type of skills, and a million other people have watched not just 3, 4, but also 5 and 6, it automatically recommends that maybe you also are interested and want to look at, video number 5, video number 6. So it's a very engaging, continuous learning without really pushing it down the throat, bite-sized, content that gets delivered. Very interesting way in which people learn, very interesting solutions. It's still emerging, it's still, scaling up substantially, but I would certainly recommend educators to take a look at those kind of learning media as well, in addition to supplement the great efforts that you're all putting in the campuses. Now, obviously, as these learning experience portals take on more and more, 2, 3 shifts will happen. We see some LXPs morphing and acquiring capabilities that the traditional LMS players had. Similarly, we see some legacy learning management system, because remember, they are more on the administration side, now acquiring user experience capabilities and trying to make their system. Somewhere the industry will meet at some midpoint, converge, and there will be one solution that probably can do both your learning administration and your learner experience together to make it very, very powerful. And in all this, in the entire learning cycle, with all these changes that are going on, no doubt, technology will play a very big role in, let's say, aggregating content, and therefore understanding human behavior, personalizations, recommendation, just in time, and so on and so curated, excellent contents, and so on. So, that's a change that will be great to see, campuses adopting and enabling for the students as well. I also want to touch upon with all this, how the roles are changing. Dr. Siripa touched upon some of them. I kind of will, touch upon 1 or 2 more. The most important change from you all to the students is going to be not about teaching. We are past that, and I was, very pleasantly happy when I saw today's title was really future of learning, not teaching. That's a great start in the right thinking. The biggest change that as teachers you're going to make to the students is really be a guide, arouse their curiosity, and teach them how to learn, how to unlearn. If they understand, once they get their understanding around how do I learn, I think the rest of it will take care of itself. They will constantly learn and learn and make them very good professionals. So that's something we think is a very important role that as teachers you bring in today and will continue to deliver for the future. As an organization, we can sit here and keep lament about quality of education, quality of students, how we find only 3% selection or 5% selection and so on, or we can engage, participate, engage early, do some interventions, invest our time, work with you hand in hand to help produce better people. Good to see, ICT Academy has taken a number of initiatives in that space. A lot of companies are doing it. We as Hexaware are doing it, and so on and so forth. That I'm sure will, over a period of time, make a constructive change to the quality of education and the students that we provide, and produce far superior talent, than probably what we have seen in the past. The last stakeholder is, of course, the learner himself. No two ways about it. You can take a horse to water. You and I can't make it drink. The most important, change with them is about the passion to learn and develop, being in charge of their own careers and taking it forward on a daily basis, and not assuming that the day they get an offer letter and join a campus, an industry, they have arrived. No, they're just starting their lives. They got to continuously learn and improve, and that's self-driven and passion that we would love to see in the students, and then as they settle down to become more better professionals. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with you all today. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I think it's inspiring, and in fact, many of the faculty members were saying right from the industry, this kind of positive message is giving a very strong, inspiration to the entire participants. I have quick two questions. One, I've just picked up from some of the chat questions. Okay, do you foresee, as an industry, not just as Hexaware, as an industry, do you foresee there will be any change in the onboarding in future because of this onboarding of the students whom you have hired last year or whom you are currently hiring? Do you think there is going to be a major change in the pattern of onboarding people?
Is this specific to a COVID situation, or is it a general question?
Specific to the COVID situation. In general, no, we are aware. That will be the typical trend which we know.
So here is my view. Again, I'm not speaking for Hexaware. As Hexaware, we have no change in our plans. Okay. Whatever we have selected, we are going ahead. In fact, I'm already on for the next hiring season as well. Okay. So we aren't changing any plans. But let me speak my point of view where I think this will go. See, certain things are going to change forever, which is, it is real that automation will take away some of the mundane jobs that people were doing. Okay? I mean, this happened to the developed countries 5, 6, 7 years ago. All the low-end jobs which required grunt work moved to India. So India grew like there is no tomorrow, right? The maturity will come in everywhere. No, we also are following the same path. So you will see automation, better technology, AI, sure, replacing some of the mundane tasks that human beings were laboring and doing. But to a broader question, does it mean this is the end of the road? I don't think so. For larger enterprises, please remember, there are any number of roles, any number of jobs, any number of volumes that still need human brains, human intervention and participation. The challenge for the educators, for the industry and everybody is not about remember, the college graduate is still the 4.5-year-old period with whatever school, etc. The challenge for all of us is, how do we now get them ready for the next level of jobs? Not for the mundane, where you can get to do it for the next 1 year and learn, or 2 years and learn, but really hit the ground running from day one. Now, already campuses are changing it. Companies intake are changing it, etc. So, there will be a shift, no doubt. There is a phase when we are transitioning learning, but I'm sure, the industry has reinvented itself several times in the past. All of us have seen, anyone in this with who has seen it, we have seen .com, we have seen so many ups and downs. I'm sure the industry campuses will redo themselves. Would I see a big tectonic shift? The answer is no. Would I see them going into the same kind of mundane jobs? Equally, the answer is no. And keep in mind, students who come out another 5 years from today may not be interested in your industry jobs. A vast number may be interested in becoming entrepreneurs. That's why you see the culture of startups, etc. So it'll be a combination of things. Nothing becomes irrelevant in my view.
Okay, sir. Thank you. I think that answers a lot of other questions also. No, you mean to say there are no much change in the pattern in the selection or in the campus onboarding, etc. But there is definitely going to be change, in the roles, which will go non-existent, and new roles will emerge. People will have to prepare for that new roles.
That's
so. Right. Thank you very much. I think you made our life easier to make educators understand how we should go forward in the future. So thank you very much, sir. I think a lot of messages, lot of takeaways from you. As a kind of large employer, your message is like, we are broadening it to the entire industry, and that's the message we all will take, and educators will take it forward in preparing our next generation students. Thank you very much, Mr. Senthil.